Peace to everybody. I just found this on Google, and this is my source is Google, but this is about the Army Psychological Operations Community is getting its name back. And it is going to get its name back because, with everything that's going on in that, and here, as you can see, the horse with the lightning swords or whatever it is, then got the banner around it. But why is it getting it back? Well, let's go. Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Half a decade ago, the 100-year-old Defense Department Psychological Operations Community got a rebrand. Military Information Support Operation. So they had their rebrand into a Military Information Support Operations. So it was like half a decade ago, and that is a real long time. The mission was the same, but the new name was supposed to reflect a broader range of activities beyond the classic strategic propaganda. So they're doing all this, and they had a mission to do to reflect on the broader range of people, what they were doing in that. But the organizational name change caused more confusion than it cleared up. So now the Army is switching back to good old PSYOP, with the understanding that military information support describes what they do, but not who they are. So they're not who you think they are. They're doing all these PSYOPs, and that's why all you think that person is dead when that person is not dead, because that person has a 10-year-old child. And if you do your research, you'll know what I'm talking about. So I'm not going to sit up here and help you look for this person with that child, because you know who I'm talking about. I'm not going to say no names at all, because I'd rather keep myself out of it, and I don't need people making videos about me. Well, she's doing this and that. No, I'm not. Given Russian disinformation, given this new world where the information fight is becoming more complex and nuanced, then there's a level of pride when I can say I'm a PSYOP soldier in a PSYOP unit that has this lean lineage. I'm sorry, it's lineage. I'm sorry, excuse my words. There are words I never can pronounce because I never seen the words before, so you're just gonna have to deal with what I can deal with. There are words I never saw before, so I have a hard time pronouncing them, and I'm pretty sure you do too, so don't act innocent like, oh, well, no, you got a problem with it too. And did these kind of things. Lieutenant Colonel Brad Carr, the Director of Information Operations at U.S. Army Special Operations Command, told Army Times in a November 2nd interview. So he told what was going on. Lieutenant Colonel Brad Carr did the information operations, and he told the Army Times about it. And that's how it became exposed. In a sentence, PSYOP refers to the ability to operate in an approved area to influence the behaviors and attitudes of foreign target audiences in line with national objectives, he added. So they doing the behavior on people, and how they're going to react, and what they are doing and everything else. But back in 2011, Carr said DoD was looking for a more general term to describe what PSYOP's units did. They settled on MISO because it sounded like a kinder, gentler update to the PSYOP mission, especially when working with other agencies such as the State Department. So they got themselves into the State Department to do these PSYOPs, and that's why it's been going on for years and years. And that's why when you think about that person that being dead in the freezer, No, that person is not dead in the freezer. It's all lies, and this is why the military is doing these psychological operations. They're doing it to mess with our minds, our emotions, and everything else. So the Army stood up military information support operations, command to ease some of the suspicion PSYOPs seem to generate. This is just a terminological change, not a substantive change. The term PSYOP was anachronistic and misleading. Military information support is a more accurate description of the activities and program at issue. Rosa Brooks, then the senior advisor to the Undersecretary of Defense for Policy, wrote in a 2010 internal email obtained by The Atlantic. So they did a terminological change, and they did some standard of change, and they did everything they could. And Rosa Brooks, then a senior advisor, had done some things too, and they are going back and forth with this to figure out who we gonna catch and why we gonna do this. And like I said, they mess with our minds and our emotions. That's what they do. Brooks went on to describe how military information support was a natural progression. So they had everybody progress into the PSYOP, and so they talking, oh well, no, we're gonna do this and do that to these people. So that's why they've been doing this to us. Why do you think everybody got caught into that mess? Because the military wants to see how we all react to this. We already use the term military information support teams to describe the PSYOP personnel who deploy to embassies and provide support to State Department public diplomacy efforts. This more thoroughgoing terminological shift will make our terminology consistent and help reduce misunderstandings, she wrote. So all these SAVs, it was nothing but a misunderstanding, and now they're trying to fix it because they want that back. They want it back so bad. So now, with everybody being misunderstanding, like the mainstream media, they put out lies, and whatever happened else, that was put out with lies. There's no truth in anything no more. Everything is a lie now. And that's what this psychological operations has done to everybody. But while the Army updated its paperwork and office signage, the term psychological warfare still hung around, not only in unit names, but in human resources and acquisitions databases, Carr said, which led to administrative confusion. So they were confusing everybody with this psychological warfare, and they are working on it real. And even the human resources, they were kind of confused too with because of the databases, and they're trying to work it all out, and they're still working it out, hopefully. And with everything going in a wrong direction right now, these psyops are just going to keep going on and on. Clearing things up. We're really kind of helping to get back to efficiencies, probably in the way we should have been, not having to translate PSYOP to MISO and back, Carr said. So they're going back and forth, calling it a PSYOP, they call it a MISO, and it's just too confusing. So now they want to get it to where they can make it easier, whatever it's called. And while MISO might have sounded better to the State Department and other agencies, the term created confusion abroad. So it did confuse a lot of things, and and now the State Department is part of the PSYOP, and of course, everything is funded by George Soros these days because he's the evil little devil himself, and he funded all these PSYOPs. I will tell you, our partner forces, NATO, the UK, they still refer to it as PSYOP. If I say I'm a PSYOP soldier, oh, I am too, Carr said. In terms of language lenses, it could potentially be more sinister to give this term that they're not aware of for a unit coming in. So the PSYOPs, yes, the UK still calls it that. They even call it the NATO, which they are also. And a person asked, if I say I'm a PSYOP soldier, and then of course Lieutenant Colonel Carr said yes, he is too. So he's playing into the PSYOP, and he's looking for ways to try to fix things in that, but it's not easy because it's a sinister thing, and then it messes with everything. PSYOP might be best known for combat operations and enemy target focused information support, he added, but their missions extend to humanitarian work. So it got more and more extended to what it was supposed to be. I think we're at a point now where we can define that, Carr said, while keeping the PSYOP moniker or some kind of word. Like I said, there are words in here I never saw before, so it's going to be hard for me to pronounce them. He Carr is saying, well, they're going to keep the PSYOP thing, but eventually, sooner or later, they're going to change it, and that's what they're working on. The change back to PSYOP is mostly administrative. A USASOC spokesman told Army Times, adding that the commanding general made the final decision on the change in October. The next step is to educate organizations who work with PSYOP about the change. So now they're going to work with organizations to keep the PSYOP word because it's misleading when you call it a miso, and it's like, what's a miso? Well, that's why it pretty much explains why it's in here. PSYOP Forces Conduct Miso, Lieutenant Colonel Robert Bockhult, the USASOC spokesman, said. Psychological operations refers to the name of units, while MISO refers to the function that soldiers in PSYOP units perform. So, they're doing everything they can, but they don't like the MISO. So now they are going to do what they can to change it back. So, they're in units that they have to change it back. For example, Carr added, Special Forces soldiers don't conduct special forces. So the soldiers cannot conduct special forces because they're forbidden to do that. And if they do that, then they get in trouble. They conduct a myriad of activities from foreign, international defense, direct actions, strategic, consistence, and on and on and on, he said. Just like an infantry soldier, an infantry unit doesn't conduct infantry, so it doesn't do anything for that one. They just, we're just going to throw it out. So the internal defense, yes, they do direct action. Changing the name is also a boon to community morale, Carr said, or added, I'm sorry. I will say there's a level of pride, and I would open it up to anyone in uniform when you can tie into this lineage or any kind of lineage. He said, when you see the one 101st Airborne Division, of course, or the 82nd Airborne Division, of course, and the stories, it does bring a level of pride. So they're opening up to these airborne divisions, or whenever you see them, one of the two, then the stories will be a level of pride that they're making up. They're doing all these psyops. In other words, they expect people to believe everything. No, you cannot believe everything that you see on the internet or on TV, because most of it is all lies by the mainstream media, plus what the news media is telling you, until you could find the right news that will tell you the truth and everything else. And they can't keep going on like this forever. So that's why they're making a change now while they can. And it's not easy doing it, but they are going to do this. And it's not easy. I am out.